In the name of God, my name's Paul Williams, I'm a Muslim, and I've challenged Lizzie here and Jay Smith, who's standing over there from Profound Ministries, to a debate today because I feel that a number of things they've been saying, not just last week and the week before, but over the years, are inciting hatred towards Muslims, that they slander and demonize Muslims in this country by their words and by their actions. And today I'm going to give a few examples which you can check yourself online of precisely such nefarious activities. Also, we're going to talk about Lizzie's article on the hijab, and I've listened to her discussion with Jay Smith. I think that was here, was it last week or the week before last? I watched that on YouTube carefully, and it's full of lies and slander against the distinguished companions of the Prophet, particularly Umar. And it also misrepresents how Muslims understand our faith in the round. So I'll just go ahead here. First and foremost, I want to mention there's not only Muslims who say this about Jay Smith and his organisation, Lizzie. Non-Muslims consider the Profound Centre to be Islamophobic. Lizzie is it Schofield or Schofield? Beg your pardon. Lizzie Schofield, in a blog entitled Islamophobia versus Islamo-criticism in March, acknowledges this openly, and she admits her group is being barred from speaking at certain venues because their ministry is considered to be Islamophobic. And she says this, quoting her very words: "The term Islamophobia is chucked at us all the time by liberal Westerners as well as by Muslims. This taint has kept us from universities and other public forums and hindered many others from supporting our work." Justin Briley, who is Premier Christian Radio, by the way, I've issued an official challenge to debate Jay on Premier Christian Radio, and they've accepted this challenge. I'm waiting for Jay to let me know. He acknowledges that many non-Muslims consider their ministry to be extreme. Let me quote Justin Briley. "There are people out there," he said on the 12th of August last year, "Christians as well, who see you guys as kind of extreme." That's Justin Briley. To many of us Muslims here today, Jay Smith himself particularly sounds like a paranoid, self-radicalized cult leader. He's even gone so far, and I heard this to myself a few weeks ago, from this very ladder, saying to Muslims that you are meant to kill me, Jay Smith, and kill all Christians. This is what Jay Smith claims. And he adds that this is what the Quran teaches in Surah 9:5, which is just silly rubbish, as any Muslim will tell you. Now, how can Jay Smith not be contributing to Islamophobia? He demonizes every Muslim as somebody to fear. This sets panic and fear in the wider population, which in turn is the ignition for hatred of Muslims. Now, at this point, I'd like to refer people to an article on my blog, Blogging Theology, Google Blogging Theology, entitled "Paul Williams and Lizzie Schofield Debate, a Few Possible Discussion Points." In there you'll see videos of Jay Smith and others. In one video, James, as I've said, Jay already claims we must kill all Christians. In another video, he talks in crude racist stereotypes about Muslims. Go on my blog and see the video evidence. Jay Smith reviles people up via provocative video discussions such as, "Why do Europeans not want any more Muslims?" So much so that his viewers leave hate comments like this: "I want Europe to kick out all Muslims. We either clear them out now by repatriation, or we wait and then have to kill them ourselves in the streets." And that is timestamp 2.05. Jay Smith has some very famous and notorious racist friends. One of them, who he calls friends of ours, confronting Islam, his words, is the far-right politician Geert Wilders. Geert Wilders has encouraged his supporters to chant racist slogans against Moroccans and other Muslims, and he was recently found guilty in Holland of inciting discrimination over comments that were demeaning towards the Moroccan population. Geert Wilders wants to ban the Quran in Holland and has said he wants Muslims to leave Europe. This is a good friend of Jay Smith, and they do the same work according to Jay Smith. Now, moving on to Lizzie, this is how she talks to Muslims. She said recently, "There is no sense in Islam that men have to exercise any self-control." So that many, many times, and we'll come to that in a moment on her discussion about the hijab. On another occasion, she rudely asks a Muslim man if he has more than one wife. Then she says a Muslim man should be embarrassed. Fine. Okay. I haven't finished, by the way, but I'll let you carry on. After you.
Okay, I'd like to say good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, Paul. I'm really
Good afternoon.
this opportunity to debate you today. So the reason I'm here today is that... Oh, sorry. The reason I'm here is that 2 weeks ago, Paul came up to me at Speaker's Corner and he confronted me about my hijab article. And I'd just like to give you some quotes that he said about my hijab article. There are some quotes, you can check them on the YouTube video if you like. He said, it's full of anti-Muslim bigotry and hatred. He said, I belong to an extremist Christian group. It was full of the most appalling misrepresentation and lies about Muslims, that I was demonizing Muslims, my very first sentence talks about how evil Islam is. It was full of horrible stuff. It was a vile attack on Muslims, and it lies and lies and lies. If you don't believe me, you can just go and check on the video. What's very interesting about what Paul has just done is that he hasn't actually mentioned that particular article at all.
I was about to, I ran out of time.
That is the reason that we're here. He's come up with lots of claims, which I'm not going to talk about here. I'm here to talk about my article, because it was very specifically that seemed to get him so incensed 2 weeks ago, and what he was interested in challenging me about. So I think, for the sake of fairness, what we're going to do is we're going to go through my article paragraph by paragraph, and I hope you've got a copy there, Paul. If you don't, someone can supply you with a copy. Do you have a copy?
I don't have a full copy. Anyone got a full copy I can have?
Okay, here's a copy. Okay, here. There you go.
Oh, right, okay.
Thank you.
That one's got a photograph on it.
This one I think the best thing to do is just get straight into the article and what it actually says. So, Paul, one of the things that you said 2 weeks ago said was this is a quote, he said, her very first sentence talks about how evil Islam is. Now, I was wondering if you could just read for us what my first sentence is.
Actually, it's the third sentence, and I'll read it here. It's an outward reminder of female oppression by a religion that subjugates women in almost every area of life. It's the third, not the first. I was doing it from memory, and I got that memory wrong.
Okay, thank you. It's my turn.
Yes.
Okay, but still,
you asked me to say.
It's good to correct these things, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's a good reminder of the pitfalls we can fall into when we don't have the article in front of us. So actually, my first sentence was...
The third sentence.
What is International Women's Day all about? If you read my article, if you read the paragraph, I'm just going to stick with paragraph 1 here, you'll realise that actually the questions I'm asking about are actually questions to do with women, questions to do with female oppression, and questions to do with Nike. The real kind of object of my criticism, if you like, is Nike, and why Nike would choose to release a hijab on International Women's Day. Now, Paul, for the sake of fairness, I appreciate that you brought up that sentence there. This is probably, I can understand this is the sentence you're probably most upset about.
Yes.
Let me read it again for the cameras. The sentence is this. What is the hijab all about? And I put, it's an outward reminder of female oppression by religion that subjugates women in almost every area of life. Now, I appreciate for Muslims that is a strong sentence, isn't it? It's a strong claim to make. But I would like to back up that claim, and I don't want it to back it up on the opinion of Muslims, but I want to back it up on the scriptures. This is what we always do at FANDA. We go straight back to the scriptures and we ask what the scriptures say. And actually, I can find 7 areas in the Quran where women are subjugated. So, for example, in Surah 4, women are subjugated in marriage, in that men can have 4 wives, but men can have 4 wives, but a woman can only have 1 husband. They're also subjugated physically. This is in Surah 434, where she can be admonished and beaten if her husband suspects ill conduct on her part. She's subjugated sexually. We read about that in Surah 2, Ayah 223, where it says that a man can go to his wife to fulfill his sexual needs whenever he likes. We look at the example of Muhammad's wives. This is in Surah 33, Ayah 33. They're told to stay in their houses, so they're subjugated economically. They're also subjugated in inheritance. If we go to Surah 4, Ayah 11, we read that the male heir is entitled to twice as much inheritance as a female heir, and they're also subjugated legally. We see this in Surah 2, Ayah 282, where a woman's testimony in court is worth half that of a man. And then this is number 7. This is number 7. This is the one that disturbs me as a woman most of all, and it makes me feel for Muslim women, because effectively the Quran subjugates them in essence. It says in Surah 434, Allah has made men to excel women. Okay, I just want to contrast that briefly with Genesis 1, verse 27. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. So my question to Paul is, can you show me anything from the Quran that discredits the verses that I've given you, that discredits the status of women, where they're not subjugated? Please, can you answer that question for me?
Okay. Just a point of information here. When I challenged them a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't just on this article, and you can see the video all over YouTube. It was about their general hatred towards Muslims and the way Muslims have been demonized in a way that you people are pouring oil on fire and contributing to the increasing Islamophobia in Europe. And this was paralleled historically by the way the Nazis were increasingly demonized, so the Jews were increasingly demonized by the Nazis. I made that specific historical parallel. Now, you in your now infamous article on the hijab, you ask, what is International Women's Day? To celebrate women and to bring to the world's attention wherever they are oppressed or treated unequally because of their gender. Surely, what is a hijab about, she claims? It's an outward reminder of female oppression, she claims, by a religion that subjugates women in almost every area of life. Now, before we look at the true function of the hijab, which we'll come to, we need to ask, are Christians being hypocritical here? Let's look at the New Testament references to women and their status. Remember, if Lizzie is not to be a hypocrite and operate blatant double standards, she must acknowledge that what the New Testament says about women and accept it as true and from God. So let's see how she deals with these passages. Let a woman learn in silence and submission. I permit no woman to teach or have authority over a man. She must keep silent. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and became a transgressor. Yet she will be saved through having babies, provided they continue in faith, love and holiness with modesty. 1 Timothy 2:11. So women have to be quiet and they'll be saved through having babies. That's according to the Apostle Paul. Another example, as in all the churches of the saints, women should be silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak. They should be subordinate, as the law also says. If there's anything they desire to know, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is shameful for women to speak in church. Shameful. Let anyone who claims to be a prophet or have spiritual powers must recognize that what I'm writing to you is a commandment from the Lord. A commandment from the Lord. Anyone who does not recognize this is not to be recognized. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 14 verses 33 to 38. Let's continue. I want you to understand that Christ is the head of every man, and the husband is the head of his wife. And then he goes on and says, any woman who prays or prophesies with her head unveiled disgraces her husband. It's the one and the same thing as having her head shaved. And then it goes on, a man ought not to have his head veiled, because he is the image and reflection of God. But the woman is a reflection of man. A woman is not made in the image of God, according to Paul. Indeed, man was not made for the woman, but woman was made for the man. Okay? And that was, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 2 to 16. Remember, she believes in the Bible. She must believe this is from God. This is the word of the Lord. If she disagrees with this, then what does it say here? If she disagrees with this teaching, then she has no status at all. Finally, it says here, I want women to dress modestly, with decency and propriety, adorning themselves, not with elaborate hairstyles or gold or pearls or expensive clothes. This is 1 Timothy 2:9. Now compare this with Lizzie's stated view, and I apologize for the bad language she uses. She writes, shouldn't women be free to wear whatever the heck they like? Yes, she says. Yes, she says? Wow. Freedom. Now, we can see now that Lizzie is a secularist, a liberal Westerner who ignores the teaching of the Bible that she claims to follow. These passages do not teach gender equality at all, but the subordination of women to men. Women must be silent. Women must be saved by having babies. Women are not made in the image of God, but the image of a man, whereas the husbands are made in the image of God. The husband is the head of the wife, and so on. So much for International Women's Day. It's clear that Lizzie's militant feminism and egalitarian views are not biblical at all. Her hatred of the hijab stems from a Western xenophobic dislike of Muslims and their clothes. I'm forced to conclude, sadly, that Lizzie is a hypocrite and operates blatant double standards. Many Christians who are honest about the Bible, unlike, sadly, J. Smith and Lizzie, argue that unlike the misogynist Paul, Jesus believed in gender equality and good treatment of women, but the Gospels sometimes tell a different story. And I'll have to leave that to my next example.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. I would just like to remind you, if I may, that I finished my last statement with some questions to you, because as a Muslim, I'd have thought that my criticisms that I come from the Quran, I thought you would actually answer them from the Quran. What I said to you
What you got? Double standards, my dear, double standards.
Please don't interrupt me, thank you. Okay, what I said to you, I gave you 7 areas in which women are subjugated in the Quran: in marriage, physically, sexually, economically, inheritance, legally, and in essence. And I'm afraid you failed to answer that at all. You failed to give me any verse, even a hadith, even something from the commentaries that shows me that in fact women are equal. Women are not subjugated in these areas. Allah does actually love and has created women as equals to men. You failed to answer that altogether. And you've gone straight into the Bible. But actually today, when I'm here today, I'm not here to have a conversation about what the Bible says about this.
Oh, really?
I'm here to have a conversation about what my article says about this, because this is exactly what you came and attacked 2 weeks ago. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to continue going through my article and what I actually say. Now, I believe you said in your last statement that I hate Muslims and I hate the way they dress. Well, if that's okay with you, I would just like to read my second paragraph, okay, and see if that chimes with what you just said, okay? This is my second paragraph. There are 2 narratives around the hijab. The first is that of the Western Muslima, which says, I like wearing the veil. It's my way of expressing my faith. No one forces me to do it, it's my choice. And because running and swimming is awkward with a hijab, when companies produce Muslim-friendly sportswear, making it easier for these women to exercise, this improves their choices. This is a good thing. Okay? So I'm actually upholding the rights of women who want to wear the hijab to wear it. So my question is, do you think women should have the freedom of choice to wear what they want? Yes or no? And do you think the statement that I just made, the paragraph that I just read out, chimes with what you said 2 weeks ago, which is this article specifically was full of lies, misrepresentation about Muslims, anti-Muslim bigotry, and hatred? Can you spot any of those things in this second paragraph why I actually defend Muslim women's right to wear the hijab? You can carry on.
No, you've got 2.5 minutes.
Go ahead. Go to the next
Okay,
No, really, I think your colleagues will want you to continue, otherwise it's...
fine. All right, I'll go on to the next one. Okay, so this is the paragraph where I talk about the other narrative around the hijab, which is that actually around most of the world, women do not choose to wear it or not. They either wear it because it's illegal,
Where's yours or mine?
for example, in countries like Saudi Arabia or in Iran, or they wear it because of so much social pressure that if they were not to wear it, they would face consequences from society or from their family or whatever it is. And I give some examples. Let me see. I give an example of this lady here. Let me just show it to the camera so you have a good look at her. Because actually...
So I can't see it.
There you go. I love
women Saudi face
brave
5 points
women
away.
like this. These women are brave. We need to know their names. We need to know who they are. This woman, her name is Malak Al-Shahri. And in December 2016, she removed her hijab, okay, and she walked around the streets of Riyadh. And now she's been arrested. Now she faces lashes as punishment. Now on Twitter, people are calling for her to be executed. Now, what I'm curious about is why Paul thinks that this is anti-Muslim bigotry. Why me speaking up for these brave women, that this is hatred. Why he thinks this is lies. This is not lies. This is reported by mainstream media. Why am I speaking up for them? And actually, it's a good question, Paul. Why are Muslim men not speaking up for the rights of women like this? Why is it up to me to have to do that? Okay? And also, I gave another example of a lady called Aqsa Parvez, who was killed in Canada by her father. And according to the CBC News Toronto, according to an agreed statement of fact presented in court, Aqsa had been experiencing conflict at home and a clash with her family because she chose to wear Western-style clothing and didn't want to cover her hair with a traditional hijab headscarf. What